Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the World Class Championship Wrestling Review Series and the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel. We are ending the month of May in 1985, and this is the last of the this edition of the Texas Stadium foray, so to speak. We closed out the Texas foray, and we entered the month of June with some good matches. Before we get there, though, Ric Flair putting the NWA Championship on the line for the first time in a while against Kevin Von Erich. And but before we get there, we have a couple of first run matches. And Thor, who we've seen before against Brian Adias. Thor is a guy they've been building up. Well, not too strong because he still has dropped to fall to the Von Erichs previously. Brian Adias, though, back for a few months now after traveling the world for a couple of years, back in the area, and as one of the best friends of Kerry Von Erich, we do see him use a great deal of speed, take headlock takeovers and the like, several different maneuvers. Power more coming from Thor, big surprise there, actually does a body toss across the ring completely on Adias, and Adias, though, in just under 5 minutes or so, able to gain a victory. He gains his victory using a high cross body from the top rope, and manages to gain the victory that way. But needless to say, Adias gets the victory. Dynamic duo of Adams and Hernandez address beating up the car previously of Kevin Von Erich, the freshly won car, basically saying he didn't really care one way or the other about that. They did it because they could. They did it because they wanted to. They did it because it made them happy. They said that the dynamic duo should have won the Texas the 12-man tag match, or whatever you want to call it. Said they won the first couple of falls and it should have went in their direction. The Americas, or the American champion Chris Adams in there against Mike Reed in your next match. Not to be expected to be much because, well, Reed still hasn't. I don't know that he's even won a match on television in Texas, but not going to win a match with Chris Adams, that's for sure. Adams sends him out to the floor to begin with in the early stages of the match. And then, very basics thing. This obviously, back at the Sportatorium, our main event, Ric Flair and Kevin Von Erich will in fact be from the Texas Stadium show. But these matches much more basic and simple. Reed does manage to gain a little bit of offense, but finds himself tossed through the ropes again. This time out on the announcer's table. And that doesn't go well for him. Does get a slam, but then goes for a big splash that he misses on Adams. Adams says, I'm smarter than you, and in that case, he certainly was. He's not willing to take losses. Big pile driver from Chris Adams. Rare move to see there, so maybe getting a little more of a killer instinct after kind of realigning with Gino Hernandez. Not that they were ever misaligned, but they've spent a little more time together. A big super kick and the victory for Chris Adams before we go into what ends up being about a 20-minute match or so. Kevin Von Erich getting his first championship match at Ric Flair in quite a while, probably more than a year at least. Flair was said not to have been able to handle the 12-man tag team match earlier in the night on this. I don't really know where that even came from. Might have been a misstep from the ring announcer. Flair, very basic with Von Erich, early top wrist lock, gathering control. The attempted roll up by Kevin with the O'Connor roll gets a 2 count there. Flair bails out to the arena floor, or the stadium ground would be more accurate here. And again, they've still got the 2 rings. They're using both rings. More power by Von Erich, also more speed. This is probably one of the better things. Now remember, this at this event this time last year, Kerry Von Erich, also in May of last year, so a year before, had won the world championship from Ric Flair. So that hot in the mind of the fans, but obviously the attendance drop off notable here. Von Erich gets the sleeper and holds it for a couple of minutes. Flair doing everything he can to jockey to the ropes to get things going in his general direction. Doesn't get all he wants out of that, and eventually does have to have the hold broken because Von Erich holding on a little extra tight. Kevin Von Erich, obviously a guy who does not win the world championship, otherwise we know about it in history, but many people would say with the level that he was over at that maybe that would have been a good idea. Maybe Kevin, who stayed more with the promotion, and in hindsight was there until the very end. Worth acknowledging that, but not to be. Kevin completely misses a top rope forearm shot, and Flair limping around a bit before going back out to the arena floor to try and catch his breath, or the stadium grass to catch his breath. Again, this match happening in Texas Stadium. Sad at the. This might be the last big card in Texas Stadium, because I'm thinking. I know when I did a spot check a couple of times ago. By this point in 1986, a year from now, the level of talent significantly less. Flair does crank on a abdominal stretch for several minutes. Tries to get every advantage he can that way as well. Flair goes actually in between the rings for a minute, catch a breather. And remember, still 2 rings here. And he sends Kevin out to the ground to get a breather. Which apparently I'm about to cough, and so I need to do the same. But anyway, Flair with the knee drop attempted across the bridge of the nose of Kevin, but Kevin out of the way. Good back and forth match, worth going out of your way to see this if you haven't before. Kevin is certainly trying to gain any advantage he can. Also, probably with about, maybe 10 minutes left in the match. The match probably goes about 20. But with 10 minutes left, Kevin tries to put the claw on Flair. Flair does get out of it, but that's not the only time we see the claw. Flair with the reverse sleeper hold-like maneuver to gain him an advantage. Kevin breaks out of that, gets a near fall off a clothesline, and both men back to their feet. Flair does try to slow the match down a bit. They do brawl on the outside of the ring and into or near the crowd area. Obviously, a little better security than average with a big stadium show. And with less than 10 minutes to go, Flair takes back over, chops, chop blocks, and the like. Von Erich, though, doesn't give up the battle, and hits some pretty vicious shots on Flair. Flair goes out to the top turnbuckle, and as always, this does not end well for Flair. Kevin manages to come over, slams Flair off the top, and that does change things, I think, at that point for Kevin. Kevin gets a backslide on Flair. Flair manages to drape his foot over the middle rope, thus ending the pinfall attempt there. They go over the top rope with a double cross body. Both men tumble to the ground after that. Second return to the claw hold right before that. They get back into the ring with, 4 or 5 minutes left in the match, but they not before they fight on the outside a little bit more. Von Erich goes nuts with the claw for several more minutes. Actually casts the referee away, throws the referee over the top rope. Both of the brothers, Mike and Kerry, have to come out to try to get Kevin to let go of the hold. Finally, Fritz Von Erich comes out to pull his son off of Ric Flair. basically saying, "Son, you've done enough. You've done enough. This isn't personal." And we closed the show with the Von Erichs kind of trying to console Kevin um, over not being able to win the NWA championship. Kevin lost it here, all the pressure. But we will close May on that note. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.